The meeting room on Apex Prime Station was filled with worried voices. Representatives from 20 different alien species sat around a massive circular table. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with strange colors. They all had one thing in common: fear. Commander Min stood in the back of the room, watching quietly. He was the only human present, wearing his dark blue Earth Defense uniform. His job was simple: observe and report back to Earth. Nothing more. The aliens barely noticed him as they argued. "We have lost another system," said Elder Ara, a tall with purple skin and 4 arms. Her voice echoed through the room. "The swarm destroyed 12 colonies in 3 cycles. Our fleets cannot stop them." A representative, whose body looked like flowing water held in a transparent suit, projected numbers into the air. "Our battle algorithms show a 97% probability of total defeat within 6 cycles. We need a new strategy." "We tried new strategies," shouted a reptilian general. "Nothing works. They adapt too fast. They learn our patterns and crush us." The room fell silent for a moment. Everyone knew the truth. They were losing this war badly. The swarm was unlike anything the Galactic Coalition had ever faced. These insect-like creatures fought with no mercy, no negotiation, and no fear. They simply consumed everything in their path. "We could ask the humans for help," Ara said quietly. The reaction was immediate and loud. Several aliens jumped from their seats. Others made sounds of distress in their own languages. A 3-eyed delegate waved his tentacles frantically. "No, absolutely not. Have you forgotten what happened at Borderland Station?" "The humans don't follow any rules," added a. "They fight like savages," finished the general. Ara raised her hands for silence. "I understand your concerns, but we are desperate. They will reach our core worlds in 2 cycles. Do we have better options?" A military officer stood up and activated a holographic display. "Let me remind everyone why involving humans is dangerous." Images began playing in the center of the room. Min watched his own species' military history being presented like a horror show. The first image showed a human ship during a rescue mission. The ship was half destroyed, barely holding together. "This vessel was damaged and surrounded by enemy forces," the officer explained. "Coalition protocol would require surrender or honorable destruction. Instead, the human commander used debris as weapons, rammed 2 enemy ships, and escaped through an unstable wormhole. The mathematics said this was impossible. They did it anyway." More images appeared. Human soldiers using enemy weapons against them. Human engineers building explosives from medical supplies. Human commanders ignoring direct orders to save civilians in ways that made no tactical sense but somehow worked. "They call it improvisation," the officer continued. "We call it chaos. They have a saying: if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. This is not how civilized species wage war." Another image showed a human training session. "Look at their combat philosophy. They teach their soldiers to accept casualties. They plan missions with only 30% success probability and still attempt them." One human instructor told his students, "If at first you don't succeed, try again, and again, and again." The representative rippled with what looked like distress. "This is madness. War should be calculated, precise, strategic. Humans treat it like gambling." "Gambling that wins," muttered someone in the back. The officer showed one final image. It was from the conflict 5 years ago. A small human frigate called the Resilient had been trapped behind enemy lines with 20,000 alien refugees. Coalition command told them to wait for rescue. Instead, Captain One did something no one expected. She flew her damaged ship through an enemy blockade, used a dying star's gravity to slingshot past 3 battle groups, and brought everyone home. When asked how she made that decision, One had simply said, "The odds were bad but not 0. That's good enough." "They still have nightmares about that ship," the officer said. "Not because it was powerful, but because it was unpredictable. The humans don't fight the way we do. They break every rule, ignore every convention, and somehow survive. Ara looked around the room. So we agree they are effective. We agree they are terrifying, replied the general, to both sides. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed conventional tactics, fleet movements, and defensive positions. Nothing they said offered real hope. Finally, they adjourned with no decisions made, only a promise to meet again in 2 days. Min left the station and returned to his small transport ship. As soon as he was in secure space, he opened a communication channel to Earth. 2 faces appeared on his screen: Admiral Jin and General, the leaders of Earth's military command. "They're scared of us," Min reported. "They showed footage of one's rescue, the borderland incident, and our training methods. They called us unpredictable and dangerous." Jin smiled slightly. She was a middle-aged woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. "But they're losing." "Badly," Min confirmed. "They are crushing them. They have maybe 6 cycles before the swarm reaches their home worlds. The coalition is following standard warfare doctrine and getting destroyed for it." A broad-shouldered man with scars on his face leaned forward. "Did they ask for help?" "Not yet, but Elder Ara suggested it. The others shut her down immediately. They'd rather lose following their rules than win with our methods." "Pride comes before the fall," Jin said. "They'll call us, eventually." "Should we prepare?" Min asked. Nodded. "Start pulling together a response team. Nothing official yet. Just get people ready. If they do call, I want to move fast." "Who should I contact?" "One for sure," Jin said. "Wu if he's available. Me's tactical analysis team. Get Sung-Ho to draw up initial plans." Min made notes. "They'll put restrictions on us. They'll want oversight, rules of engagement, approval for every action." "Of course they will," replied. "And those restrictions won't last 1 week in actual combat. They never do." Jin's expression turned serious. "The coalition is about to learn an important lesson. You don't ask humans for help and then tell them how to do it. We either fight our way or we don't fight at all." The communication ended. Min sat in his quiet ship, looking at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was advancing, destroying everything in its path. The coalition was losing a war they didn't know how to win, and Earth was waiting for a call that would change everything. He thought about what the aliens had said in the meeting. Unpredictable, dangerous, breaking every rule. They said it like it was a bad thing, but Min knew the truth. In war, predictability meant death. Following rules meant losing. Humans had learned that lesson the hard way through centuries of fighting themselves. Now the galaxy was about to learn it too. Captain One stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Defiant. It was bigger than the Resilient, but she still missed her old vessel. That ship had personality. This one was too clean, too perfect. "Captain, we have a coded message from Earth Command," her communications officer said. One read the message on her private screen. Admiral Jin wanted her ready for possible deployment to coalition space. No details yet. Just be prepared. One smiled. She had been expecting this. The coalition was in trouble, and trouble always brought humans into the picture eventually. Her first officer, Lieutenant Young, noticed her expression. "Good news." "Maybe, depends on your definition of good." She turned to face her crew. "Run full diagnostics on all systems. I want this ship ready for combat operations within 24 hours. Young raised an eyebrow. "Are we going somewhere?" "Not yet, but we will be." On Earth, at the military training facility in South Korea, Lieutenant Wu was teaching a class of alien cadets. The coalition sent their best young officers to train with humans, hopping to learn their methods. It never worked quite the way the aliens expected. "Today we discuss mission planning," Wu said, standing in front of a holographic display. He was young for an instructor, only 28, but he had already survived 4 major conflicts. "The scenario, Your squad must destroy an enemy communications tower. You are outnumbered 3 to 1. Intelligence suggests a 35% probability of success. What do you do? A cadet raised one of her forearms. Request additional support. Support is not available. A student's form rippled. Recalculate to find a scenario with better probability. Time is critical, you cannot wait. The in the back made a growling sound. This mission should not be attempted. The probability is too low. Wu smiled. Interesting. Every answer focuses on avoiding the mission. That's exactly why the coalition is losing against the. He tapped the display and it showed a different view of the target. A human squad would ask different questions. Not can we succeed, but how can we succeed? Not what's the probability, but what can we change to improve it? He zoomed in on the enemy tower. Look here. The tower has guards, yes, but those guards change shifts every 6 hours. During the change, there's a 3-minute window with reduced security. The tower's power source is external here. Cut the power, the communications die for 90 seconds before backup generators activate. In that 90 seconds, you don't need to destroy the tower. You just need to upload a virus. The cadets looked confused. I asked, but this changes the mission parameters. The original objective was destruction. The original objective was to stop enemy communications, Wu corrected. Destruction is one method. A virus is another. Humans think about the goal, not the specific path to it. But what if the virus plan only has 30% success probability? Asked the. Wu's expression turned serious. Then we try 3 times. The classroom went silent. The alien cadets didn't understand. In their cultures, military operations were precise, calculated affairs. You planned carefully, executed perfectly, and accepted defeat when mathematics said victory was impossible. The human approach seemed reckless, even suicidal. But deep down, some of them were starting to see why humans won battles that should have been losses. Far from Earth, the war continued to go badly for the coalition. The swarm attacked the nebula, where a major coalition fleet had gathered for a defensive stand. The battle lasted 3 days and ended in disaster. Specialist Mi watched the battle recordings from Earth's intelligence center. She was one of the best tactical analysts in the human military, able to see patterns that others missed. What she saw in these recordings worried her. The coalition is making the same mistakes over and over, she told her team. Watch here, at 23 minutes into the battle, they send a probe force to test the coalition's response. The coalition follows standard defensive doctrine, maintain formation, focus fire on the largest threats, protect the flagship. Her team members watched as the battle played out exactly as me described. Now watch what happens 4 hours later. The attack with their main force, and they target exactly where the coalition's defenses are weakest, because the coalition showed them. They learned the coalition's patterns and adapted in real time. So the coalition is too predictable, asked one of her assistants. Exactly, they fight by a book. They read the book and learned to counter every page. Me pulled up more data. Look at this. The coalition has lost every major engagement in the past 6 cycles, not because they lack courage or weapons, but because they lack flexibility. They cannot adapt mid-battle. They cannot improvise. They are fighting a conventional war against an unconventional enemy. She compiled her analysis into a report for Admiral Jin. Her conclusion was simple. The coalition needed human tactical thinking, or they would lose this war within a year. The next Coalition Council meeting was even more desperate than the last. Elder Ara stood before the assembly with terrible news. The outer colonies have fallen. They destroyed the prime industrial hub. 10 billion lives were lost. Our fleet is at 40% strength. We are losing this war. The room was filled with the sounds of despair. Some delegates wept, others sat in shocked silence. We must discuss the human option, Ara said firmly. I know the concerns, I share them, but survival must come first. The representative spoke, its voice heavy with resignation. What exactly would we ask of them? Military advisors, tactical expertise, a small force, perhaps 5,000 personnel, working within our command structure. Can we control them? Asked the general. We can set conditions, strict oversight, no independent operations. They must follow coalition protocols. Commander Min listened from his observer position. He wanted to tell them that controlling humans in combat was like controlling a storm. You could try, but nature had other plans. Instead, he remained quiet and took notes. The debate lasted hours. Some argued that bringing humans in would lead to chaos. Others countered that they already had chaos, they were losing. Finally, a vote was called. The decision passed by a narrow margin. The coalition would formally request military assistance from Earth. When Min reported this to Admiral Jin and General, their reactions were mixed. They'll want restrictions, said immediately. Of course, Jin agreed. They're afraid of us. They'll try to use our skills while limiting our methods. That won't work, Min pointed out. No, it won't, Jin smiled. But we'll agree to their terms anyway. Once they see what we're up against, those restrictions will disappear fast. Reality has a way of changing people's minds. How many people should we send? Asked. They asked for 5,000. We'll give them exactly that. Elite personnel. One Wu Mi Sung Ho, our best tactical minds and combat veterans. Jin looked at her list. And we'll put Sung Ho in command. He knows how to work with aliens while still getting the job done. When do we deploy? Min asked. As soon as they formally request it, which should be any day now. The formal request came 3 days later. Elder Ara herself traveled to Earth to deliver it in person. She met with the UN Space Command leadership in Geneva. The meeting was polite but tense. We need your help, Ara said simply. Our civilization faces extinction. We are asking Earth to deploy military advisors to assist in the war against the swarm. Admiral Jin listened carefully. Under what conditions? You would work within our command structure. All operations require approval from Coalition Command. No independent actions. You would follow our rules of engagement. General leaned forward. You want us to fight with one hand tied behind our backs. Ara's 4 arms tensed. We want you to fight responsibly, to follow the conventions of civilized warfare. Those conventions are why you're losing, said bluntly. The room went quiet. Finally, Jin spoke. We'll agree to your terms for now, but understand something. You're hearing humans because your way isn't working. Don't be surprised when we do things differently. The negotiations took a week. In the end, Earth agreed to send 5,000 personnel under Colonel Sung Ho's command. They would work as advisors and support forces, with all major decisions requiring coalition approval. As the human fleet prepared to depart for coalition space, Colonel Sung Ho gathered his officers for a final briefing. Wu, Mi, Min, and dozens of others filled the room. The aliens are scared of us, Sung Ho said. They've agreed to let us help, but they don't trust us. They'll watch everything we do. They'll question every decision. They'll try to make us fight their way. He paused. We're going to smile, nod, and do our jobs, because once the shooting starts, rules change fast. They'll learn that they either trust us completely or they lose completely. There's no middle ground in war. The human fleet jumped to coalition space. The war was about to change forever. The human fleet arrived at Coalition Space Station Meridian 3 weeks after leaving Earth. 12 ships carrying 5,000 personnel, equipment, and supplies. The Coalition fleet waited to receive them, and the contrast was stark. Coalition vessels were sleek and beautiful, with smooth lines and polished hulls that gleamed in the starlight. They looked like works of art, designed by civilizations that valued aesthetics as much as function. The human ships looked like they had been through a war. Scratched hulls, visible repair patches, mismatched components welded together. They were purely functional, built to work rather than impress. One officer observing the arrival said to his colleague, "Their ships look damaged." The colleague replied quietly, "Or well used. I'm not sure which is worse." Colonel Sung-ho was the first to disembark. He was a tall, lean man with graying hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 6 major conflicts and survived them all. As he walked through the docking bay, alien personnel stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious, others worried, a few openly hostile. The coalition had prepared a welcome ceremony. Elder Ara stood at the center of a formation of officers from 20 different species. "Welcome to Coalition Space," she said formally. "We are grateful for Earth's assistance in our time of need." Sung-ho saluted. "We're here to help you win this war." "We're here to help you survive it," Ara corrected gently. "There is a difference." An admiral named Eth approached. Its water-like body flowed with agitation. "Colonel Sung-ho, we have prepared quarters for your personnel and integrated your ships into our defensive grid. We have also prepared a briefing on coalition military doctrine, which your people must study before any operational deployment." "Of course," Sung-ho agreed. "We're looking forward to understanding your strategies." What he didn't say, those strategies were clearly failing, but he would be polite about it. The first operational briefing happened 2 days later. Coalition Command had prepared an elaborate presentation on their defensive plans. The line, a series of fortified positions designed to slow the advance. Supply routes carefully calculated for maximum efficiency. Fleet positions optimized by the battle computers. Sung-ho listened carefully, his human officers taking notes. Captain One sat near the front, occasionally tapping her. Lieutenant Wu studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Specialist Mi was already running her own calculations, her fingers flying across her computer. When the presentation ended, Eth asked, "Do you have questions?" Sung-ho stood, "Where are the vulnerable?" The question seemed to confuse the coalition officers. Eth's form rippled. "We focus on our defensive strengths, our fortified positions, our supply lines, our fleet formations." "That's your weakness," Mi said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood up, not intimidated by the room full of senior officers. "You're fighting, the attack, you defend. They adapt, you adjust. You're always one step behind because you're responding to them instead of making them respond to you." "We have strategic defensive positions," a general objected. "Which the will bypass, attack from unexpected angles, or simply overwhelm with numbers," Mi continued. She pulled up her own analysis on the display. "I've studied every battle in this war. They are predictable in one way. They always exploit your predictability. You need to become unpredictable." The room erupted in arguments. Some aliens agreed with Mi's assessment. Others were insulted by a junior human officer criticizing their entire strategy. Ara raised her hands for silence. "The humans are here to advise us," she said firmly. "We should listen to their perspectives, even if they differ from our own. However, Coalition Command makes the final decisions." Sung-ho nodded diplomatically. "Of course, we're here to support your command structure." But as the humans left the briefing, one whispered to Wu, "How long do you think that'll last?" "First real battle," Wu replied, "maybe less." They were assigned to their first mission a week later. A supply convoy needed escort through the system. Simple, straightforward, low risk. Captain One and her ship, the Defiant, would accompany 3 coalition vessels protecting 6 transport ships. The coalition escort commander was a captain named Orr. He was experienced and competent, following every protocol perfectly. The convoy moved through space in a precise formation, with escorts positioned at optimal defensive points. One followed the formation, but she also had her crew running constant scans. "I don't like this route," she told Young. "Too predictable. If I were the enemy, I'd know exactly where to hit us." "The coalition planned this route using their best algorithms," Young pointed out. which is why they probably already know it too. She was right. 2 hours into the journey, raiders appeared. 6 fast-attack ships designed for hit-and-run strikes. They came from an unexpected angle outside the optimal defensive coverage. All ships maintained formation, or commanded. Focus fire on the closest targets, protect the transports. One watched as the coalition escorts did exactly what their training demanded. They held position, fired at the nearest enemies, and kept the transports in the center of the formation. It was textbook defensive tactics. It was also exactly what they expected. 2 coalition escorts were damaged in the first exchange. They were picking them apart. Defiant, maintain your position, or ordered. One made a decision. Young, remember that trick we pulled in the conflict, the false distress signal. The one that got us court-martialed, Young smiled. Then the charges were dropped because we saved everyone. That's the one, do it. The Defiance communications officer began broadcasting what sounded like a panic distress call on frequencies. Mayday, engine failure, hull breach, life support failing. The message was in broken language, as if from a damaged ship trying to call for help. The raiders hesitated. Then 3 of them broke formation to investigate what seemed like an easy target. They moved toward the Defiant, which appeared to be drifting helplessly. Now, one said calmly. The Defiant suddenly accelerated, herding the 3 ships toward a dense debris field that her sensors had detected earlier. As the enemy ships entered the field, the Defiant deployed hundreds of small charges, each one carefully placed. The debris field became a death trap. Explosions chained through the area, destroying 2 raiders and crippling the 3rd. The remaining 3 enemy ships, seeing their companions destroyed so quickly, retreated. The convoy was safe, not a single transport damaged. The 2 coalition escorts that had taken hits could be repaired. But Orr was furious. He opened a direct channel to one. You violated orders, you broke formation, you used unauthorized tactics. I saved the convoy, one replied simply. You could have endangered everyone with your recklessness. But I didn't. Everyone's alive. The transports are safe, mission successful. When they returned to base, one was called before Coalition Command. She stood at attention while Eth and several other admirals reviewed her actions. Sung-Ho stood beside her, his expression neutral. Captain 1, Eth said, its voice cold. You disobeyed a direct order from your escort commander. You abandoned your assigned position. You employed tactics that were not approved. This is unacceptable. With respect, Admiral, Sung-Ho interjected, my officer completed the mission with 0 casualties. The convoy reached its destination safely. By violating every protocol we established. By thinking creatively under pressure, Sung-Ho countered, which is why you asked for human assistance. The argument continued for an hour. In the end, one received an official reprimand in her file, but no other punishment. The refugees on those transport ships had sent messages of gratitude, which made it politically difficult to discipline their rescuer too harshly. But the incident created tension. Coalition Command didn't trust humans to follow orders. Humans didn't trust Coalition Command to make smart tactical decisions. 3 weeks later, the situation became critical. Station, a massive civilian hub in the Outer Rim, came under attack. The station held 50 million civilians, most of them refugees from already conquered worlds. It had some defensive weapons, but nothing that could stop a full assault fleet. Coalition Command held an emergency meeting that would arrive in 48 hours. Station could not be evacuated in time. The nearest coalition battle group was 4 days away. We must order them to surrender, one admiral suggested. The don't accept surrender, another replied. They'll kill everyone anyway. Then we send whatever ships we have, make a stand, and lose those ships for nothing. The mathematics are clear. We cannot win this battle. The meeting was going in circles. Elder Ara sat silently, her forearms folded. Finally, she spoke. "What about the humans?" The room went quiet. Eth's form rippled with agitation. "The humans have 5,000 personnel and 12 ships. They are sending an entire invasion fleet. What could they possibly do?" "I don't know," Ara admitted, "but they are very good at doing impossible things." Major Min, who had been promoted after the successful convoy escort, stood up. "Give us a chance. 12 hours. Let us try something." "Try what?" Eth demanded. "I don't know yet," Min said honestly, "but we have ideas." "This is madness." "This is 50 million lives," Ara said firmly. "If the humans can even delay the long enough for evacuation, it's worth trying." The vote was close, but desperation won. Colonel Sung-ho received authorization to deploy a human strike team to station. He had 12 hours to plan and execute whatever he had in mind. Sung-ho gathered his best people, Wu, me, Min, and 200 elite soldiers. "We can't fight an entire fleet head-on," he said, "so we won't. We're going to do what humans do best: cheat." Mi pulled up her analysis. "The fleet is organized around a command ship. It coordinates all the others. If we can disable that ship, the fleet will lose cohesion." "How do we disable a ship that's surrounded by hundreds of others?" Wu asked. One smiled. "We don't attack it from outside, we attack it from inside." The plan was insane. It violated every rule of warfare the coalition held sacred. The probability of success was maybe 20%. But 20% was better than zero, and humans had won with worse odds before. "All right," Sung-ho said, "let's make the impossible happen, again." The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. 200 human soldiers would infiltrate a command ship surrounded by an entire invasion fleet, sabotage it from within, and escape before anyone noticed. Simple. "You're all insane," the coalition station commander had told Major Min when he explained the plan. "Probably," Min agreed, "but we're also your only option." Specialist Mi had spent 8 hours studying biology and ship design. They are cold-blooded. Their body temperature regulation depends on their environment. If we can flood their command ship with a specific chemical compound, it will force them into hibernation. "What compound?" asked Lieutenant Wu. "Nitrogen-based coolant mixed with carbon dioxide. It mimics their winter environment. Their biology will automatically respond by shutting down for hibernation. They'll be asleep within minutes and stay that way for at least 16 hours. "And how do we get close enough to their command ship to do this?" Captain One asked. Mi smiled. "We steal their shuttles and pretend to be them." The first part of the plan started immediately. Human infiltration teams spread across station, looking for any technology. They found wreckage from previous battles, damaged scouts, even a few intact shuttles in the station's impound area. "These things are disgusting," one soldier commented, looking inside a shuttle. The interior was designed for insect-like creatures, with sharp edges and strange angles. "It'll get us close," Min said. "That's all we need." Human engineers worked frantically to make the shuttles operational. They also created false identification codes, mimicking communication protocols that Mi's intelligence team had decrypted. It wasn't perfect, but it might work for a few crucial minutes. Meanwhile, other teams prepared the chemical compound. They couldn't synthesize enough in time, so they improvised. The station's industrial sector had massive tanks of coolant for the environmental systems. With some modifications, it would work. "We're really going to put our people inside enemy shuttles, fly into the middle of a fleet, board their command ship, and pump sleeping gas through their ventilation system?" Young asked, just to confirm he understood correctly. "That's the plan," one confirmed. "This is the thing I've ever heard." "Probably. You ready?" Young grinned. "Always." The fleet arrived right on schedule. hundreds of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel, surrounding station like predators circling prey. The command ship was obvious, massive, heavily armored, positioned at the center of the formation. Coalition Command watched from a safe distance, monitoring everything. Elder Ara sat beside Eth, both of them tense. "The humans are launching their shuttles," an officer reported. "This won't work," Eth said quietly. "It's madness." "Perhaps," Ara replied, "but it's magnificent madness." 5 shuttles, all piloted by humans in stolen environmental suits, left station and headed toward the enemy fleet. They broadcast identification codes and transponder signals. To any scanner, they looked like shuttles returning from a scouting mission. Inside the lead shuttle, Min sat in a seat designed for a creature with 6 legs. It was uncomfortable. Everything about this mission was uncomfortable. But his team was calm, professional. They had trained for impossible missions their entire careers. "We're receiving a challenge code from the command ship," the pilot reported. "Respond with the sequence me provided," Min ordered. They transmitted the stolen codes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the command ship's docking bay opened. "We're cleared to land," the pilot said, relief evident in his voice. "Stage 1 complete," Min broadcast to the other shuttles, proceeding to Stage 2. The 5 shuttles landed inside the command ship. Hundreds of warriors moved through the massive vessel, preparing for the assault on station. They barely noticed the shuttles. Why would they? As far as they knew, these were their own craft returning home. The humans waited until most of the nearby had moved away. Then they emerged quickly, moving in tight formation. They wore stolen armor over their own suits, hoping the disguise would work from a distance. "Environmental control is 3 decks up," Mi's voice came through their communications. She was back at, coordinating from the intelligence center. "Take the central lift shaft." They moved fast. A few saw them but didn't react immediately. The humans walked with confidence like they belonged there. In the chaos of pre-battle preparations, nobody questioned them. They reached the environmental control room. 2 technicians were inside, monitoring systems. Wu and his team entered first. The fight was quick and silent. Within seconds, both were unconscious. "We're in," Wu reported. "Beginning installation of the compound delivery system." His engineers worked fast, connecting the canisters of modified coolant to the environmental distribution network. It was crude work, but it didn't need to be elegant. It just needed to work. "Charges set," one engineer reported. "When we trigger them, the compound will flood every deck simultaneously through the air vents." "How long until the notice?" Min asked. "Maybe 5 minutes if we're lucky. Maybe 30 seconds if we're not." They were not lucky. A patrol discovered the unconscious technicians. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Hundreds of warriors began converging on the environmental control room. "We're compromised," Wu shouted, triggering the release now. He activated the charges. Throughout the massive command ship, vents began spraying the coolant compound. The temperature dropped rapidly. Carbon dioxide levels spiked. This instinct screamed at them that winter was coming. And their biology did what millions of years of evolution had programmed it to do: prepare for hibernation. Warriors began slowing down, their movements becoming sluggish. Some collapsed where they stood. Others tried to fight the biological imperative but couldn't. Within 3 minutes, the entire command ship was filled with sleeping. "It worked," Min said, amazed. "It actually worked." "Don't celebrate yet," one's voice came through the communication. "You still need to get out of there." The return journey was easier. With the asleep, the humans simply walked back to their shuttles unopposed. They launched from the command ship and headed back to station. But the mission wasn't over. Mi had one more trick planned. "Captain 1, are you in position?" she asked. "Affirmative," one replied from the Defiant, standing by with the virus upload. While the humans had been infiltrating the command ship, one and her crew had been preparing a cyber warfare attack. Using the brief access the infiltration team had created, they uploaded a sophisticated virus into the fleet's navigation network. The virus wouldn't destroy the systems. Instead, it would introduce tiny errors into every calculation. Navigation would be off by small margins. Targeting computers would miss by fractions of a degree. Communication protocols would experience random delays. None of it catastrophic, but all of it devastating for fleet coordination. Virus deployed, one reported. It'll take them weeks to find and remove all the code we planted. The Coalition fleet arrived at 4 hours later, while the command ship was still asleep and their fleet was in disarray. Finding their enemy confused and leaderless, the Coalition forces attacked with overwhelming advantage. The Battle of Station became the Coalition's first major victory in months. The fleet was destroyed or scattered. Station survived intact. 50 million civilians were saved. And the entire operation cost 0 human casualties. Back at Coalition Command Headquarters, Elder Ara reviewed the battle reports with growing amazement. 200 soldiers infiltrated an enemy command ship in the middle of their own fleet, put the entire crew to sleep, and escaped without being detected. Then they uploaded a virus that crippled the enemy's coordination systems. She looked at Eth. Do you understand what this means? That humans are even more dangerous than we feared, Eth replied. That we've been fighting this war wrong from the beginning, Ara corrected. We followed rules. We calculated probabilities. We did everything properly. And we lost battle after battle. The humans broke every rule we have, did things with a 20% success rate and won. Another admiral spoke up. But we can't let them operate with complete freedom. They're too unpredictable, too reckless. They're also too effective, Ara countered. Look at the results. Our conventional tactics failed. Their unconventional tactics succeeded. Perhaps we need to learn from them rather than trying to control them. The debate raged through Coalition Command for days. Some wanted to give humans more authority. Others wanted to maintain strict oversight. The compromise satisfied no one. Humans could suggest operations but still needed approval for implementation. It didn't matter. The news of spread through both Coalition and space. The unstoppable swarm had been stopped by humans, using tactics so bizarre that they couldn't predict or counter them. More importantly, they were confused for the first time since the war began. They had learned to predict Coalition tactics perfectly, but humans didn't follow any pattern. Each battle was different. Each approach was unique. This greatest advantage, their ability to adapt to enemy patterns, was useless against an enemy with no consistent pattern. Colonel Sung-ho addressed his officers after. This is just the beginning. We've shown the Coalition and what human tactics can achieve. Now the real war starts. They will adapt. They'll expect tricks. We'll need to be even more creative. And the Coalition, one asked, will they finally trust us to do what needs to be done? Not yet, Sung-ho admitted. But they will, because they aren't done. They're going to come back harder than before. And when they do, the Coalition will realize they have only 2 choices. Let humans fight our way or lose their worlds. He was right. 3 weeks after, scouts detected a massive enemy mobilization. Every available ship was gathering for one final, overwhelming assault. Their target, the Coalition's capital world. The Coalition's greatest fear was about to become reality, and they would have to decide, trust the humans completely or face extinction trying to maintain control. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the scariest ally is the one who refuses to lose. The intelligence reports were devastating. Every ship in known space was converging on a single point, the end capital of the Galactic Coalition. 3,000 warships, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, enough warriors to consume every living thing on the surface. The coalition's entire remaining fleet numbered just under 1,000 ships. Even with perfect tactics, the mathematics were impossible. They would lose. Elder Ara called an emergency session of the Coalition Council. Every species representative was present, their faces showing the same emotion, fear. "We'll reach in 5 days," she said. "We cannot evacuate the entire planet in time. We cannot win a conventional battle. We need a new approach." "The humans," someone said quietly. The room erupted in argument. Some demanded the humans be given full tactical authority. Others insisted that such a decision would be abandoning everything the coalition stood for. A few suggested surrender, though everyone knew they didn't accept it. General attended the meeting via holographic communication from Earth. He stood silently, letting the aliens argue. Finally, Elder Ara addressed him directly. "General, your people have demonstrated remarkable tactical abilities, but can you win a battle where we are outnumbered 3-1? "No," said honestly. The room went silent. "We cannot win a traditional battle with those numbers, but we're not going to fight a traditional battle." "What do you propose?" asked Ev. "Complete operational authority. No restrictions. No oversight. No approval requirements. You put Colonel Sung-Ho in supreme command of all coalition forces, give him total freedom to implement any strategy he chooses, and trust us to do what needs to be done." "That's asking us to surrender control of our own military," a general objected. "You don't have control now," replied bluntly. "You're losing. You can maintain your pride and watch burn, or you can give us the freedom to save it. Your choice." The debate lasted 3 hours. In the end, survival won over pride. The vote was close, but it passed. Colonel Sung-Ho would assume supreme command of all coalition forces. Every human officer would receive full authority over their respective areas. For the next 5 days, humans would direct the entire war effort. As soon as the decision was made, Sung-Ho gathered his command staff. Every human officer of rank was present. "We have 5 days to prepare for the biggest battle of this war. They expect us to defend directly, so we're not going to." "Sir?" Major Min asked, confused. Specialist Mi pulled up a tactical display. "We're going to turn into bait, a trap, the biggest deception in military history." The plan was audacious, insane, beautiful in its simplicity. First, evacuate, not publicly, secretly. Every civilian on the planet would be quietly moved to hidden locations in nearby systems. The operation would take 4 days of constant shuttles, but it could be done. Second, make the planet look inhabited. Automated systems, holographic projections, energy signatures mimicking normal city activity. They would see what looked like a populated world going about its daily business. Third, turns defenses into automated traps. The orbital platforms, the ground-based weapons, everything would be preset with targeting algorithms. No people operating them, just computers waiting for targets. Fourth, position the real coalition fleet not at, but behind this approach vector. When they committed to their assault on the inhabited planet, they would have their backs to the actual coalition forces. "We're using an entire planet as a decoy," Captain One said with admiration. "That's brilliant." "It's risky," Sung-Ho admitted. "If they detect the evacuation, the plan fails. If they scan the planet carefully and realize it's empty, we lose our advantage. But it's our best chance." "What about their command ship?" Lieutenant Wu asked. "We can't use the sleeping gas trick again. They'll be ready for it." "We don't need to," Mi said. "This time we're going directly for their command structure." She displayed a new plan. "While they are attacking an empty planet, I'm leading a strike team to their command ship. But instead of sabotage, we're going to do something they won't expect. Talk." "Talk," several officers said simultaneously. "They communicate through chemical signals and specific frequency patterns. I've been studying their language. I'm going to broadcast a message directly into their command network. A message they won't be able to ignore. What message? Min asked. Mi smiled coldly. Earth's complete military history. The evacuation began immediately. 12 million had to be moved without alerting scouts. Human coordinators worked with officials, organizing shuttle routes that avoided detection. It was the largest covert operation in galactic history. This is impossible. One administrator told Young as he coordinated evacuation from the capital city. We do impossible things all the time, Young replied. Just keep the shuttles moving. Simultaneously, human engineers worked on defenses. Every weapons platform received new programming. Every sensor array was linked to automated targeting systems. The orbital stations were rigged with explosive charges that could be triggered remotely. Captain One supervised the fleet repositioning. Moving 1,000 warships without being detected was challenging, but humans were good at deception. They used natural stellar phenomena to mask their movements: nebulae, asteroid fields, radiation belts. By the time they arrived, the coalition fleet would be invisible, hidden in the perfect ambush position. On the fourth day, the last civilian shuttle left. The planet stood empty, but to any scan it looked alive. City lights shone on schedule. Transport vehicles moved along automated routes. Communication networks buzzed with recorded traffic. It was a ghost world pretending to be inhabited. The fleet arrived on the morning of the fifth day. 3,000 ships emerging from faster-than-light travel, surrounding like a vast mechanical swarm. Their command ship broadcast its final warning, though nobody was there to hear it: surrender or be consumed. When no response came, they began their assault. Warships moved into bombardment positions. Ground assault craft prepared to land troops. Everything proceeded according to their battle plan. And then, automated defenses activated. Orbital platforms opened fire with perfect accuracy. Missiles launched from hidden ground silos. The planetary defense grid lit up like a star going nova. Ships began taking damage immediately, and the automated systems kept firing with inhuman precision. The command realized something was wrong, but by then it was too late. Their fleet was committed to the assault, their formations broken up for ground invasion, their ships in vulnerable positions. That's when the coalition fleet struck from behind. 1,000 warships emerging from hiding, hitting this undefended rear. The battle became a massacre. Caught between automated planetary defenses and a surprise fleet attack, the formation collapsed. All ships focus fire on their command vessel, Sung Ho ordered. Don't let it escape. The coalition fleet concentrated their attack on the massive command ship. Shields failed. Armor buckled. The ship tried to retreat but was surrounded. And that's when Mi made her move. A small, fast human shuttle launched from the Defiant, piloted by Wu with Mi in the passenger seat. It dodged through the battle, impossibly agile, heading straight for the dying command ship. "You're insane," Eth shouted over the communication channel. "Frequently," Mi replied calmly. The shuttle latched onto the command ship's hull. Mi and a small team breached the damaged sections and fought their way to the communication center. Warriors tried to stop them, but human soldiers were ready. The fight was brutal and quick. Mi reached the communication hub and connected her equipment. "Uploading now," she said. What she transmitted was humanity's entire military history. Every war humans had fought against themselves. The world wars, the regional conflicts, the civil wars. Centuries of humans killing humans with increasing efficiency. Videos, records, tactical analyses, casualty counts. And then footage of humanity's recent battles. The tricks, the traps, the improvised weapons, the impossible victories. Battle after battle where humans faced certain defeat and won anyway through sheer determination and creativity. The final message was simple: this is what we did to ourselves when we were divided. Now we are united. Now we are coming for you. Surrender or face extinction. Choose. The message broadcast across every frequency. Every ship received it. Every warrior saw what humanity was capable of. The battle stopped, not immediately but within minutes. Ships began withdrawing, breaking off their assault. Their morale had shattered. For a species that fought through instinct and collective determination, the revelation that they faced an enemy even more ruthless than themselves was psychologically devastating. 3 days later, ambassadors contacted Coalition Command requesting negotiations. They wanted peace. They wanted to end the war. The negotiations were held on neutral ground. Elder Ara led the coalition delegation. General and Colonel Sung Ho represented humanity. The Queen herself attended, a massive creature that communicated through translators. "Your species fights without honor," the Queen said through her translator. "Your species fights without mercy," replied. "We simply matched your energy." "You are more dangerous than we calculated," the Queen admitted. "We believed the coalition to be weak. We did not account for humans." "That was your mistake," Admiral Jin said. She had come personally to see the end of the war. "You assumed the coalition would fight like they always did. You didn't know they had us." The peace treaty was signed a week later. They would withdraw from all conquered territories. They would pay reparations. They would never again attack coalition space. In exchange, the coalition would not pursue them into their own territory. It wasn't a perfect peace, but it was peace. At the victory celebration on, now repopulated with its citizens, Elder Ara found Admiral Jin standing alone, looking at the stars. "We didn't want to let humans fight in this war," Ara said quietly. "We were afraid of what you might do." "And now," Jin asked. "Now we understand. You don't fight to win glory, you fight to survive, and that makes you terrifying." Jin smiled. "We tried to tell you, humans don't believe in fair fights. We believe in winning by any means necessary." "What will you do now?" Ara asked. "Many on the council want to offer Colonel Sung Ho permanent command of coalition forces." "He'll refuse," Jin said confidently. "We don't want to run your military. We'll help when you need it, but you shouldn't depend on us. That's not healthy for anyone." She was right. When offered permanent command, Sung Ho politely declined. Instead, he recommended a joint command structure: coalition officers for strategy, human advisors for tactical creativity. "You needed us to win this war," Sung Ho told the council. "But you don't want us running things permanently, trust me." The human fleet prepared to return to Earth. As they departed, they left behind something unexpected. Thousands of coalition officers who had trained with them, learned from them, absorbed their methods. The coalition military academies implemented new courses within months: creative tactical solutions, asymmetric warfare theory, adaptive strategy under pressure. The descriptions carefully avoided saying how to think like humans, but that's what they were. One course description included a quote attributed to Colonel Sung Ho: "If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics are terrible." It became the unofficial motto of the new coalition military doctrine. Major Min, now promoted to colonel, stayed behind as Earth's permanent liaison. He attended the first graduation ceremony for officers trained in the new methods. Watching young aliens from 20 species learning to think creatively, to improvise, to try impossible things, he smiled. Elder Ara stood beside him. "They're learning to be unpredictable," she observed, "like humans." "They're learning to adapt," Min corrected. "That's different. They'll never fight exactly like humans. They'll fight like themselves but with human principles. That's better." "Is it enough?" Ara asked. "What if the return or some other threat?" "Then you call us again," Min said simply. "That's what allies do." The galaxy had changed. The swarm had been defeated. The coalition had survived. And everyone had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the scariest thing in the universe isn't the enemy you face, but the ally who refuses to lose. Years later, a young cadet would ask her instructor, "Why are humans so good at winning impossible battles?" The instructor, a veteran of the war, thought carefully before answering, "Because they don't believe in impossible. They only believe in not yet figured out. And that makes all the difference." Somewhere in the cosmos, the human fleet continued its journey home. Inside the ships, officers were already planning, training, preparing, not for the last war but for the next one, because humans knew a truth the galaxy was still learning. Peace is wonderful, but staying ready for war is what keeps the peace lasting. And humanity was very, very good at being ready.